there, Michael here. So in this video I'll show you how to get to know the 5 positions of the minor pentatonic scale a little bit better. So to help you out with this, you can get this free grid, I call it, and it's just kind of a randomized order of putting the numbers 1 to 5 in a random order, then trying to shift between them, and obviously those correspond to the 5 positions that we're talking about here. Okay, so you'll probably get the hang of going from position 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. The tricky thing is being able to shift around at will, okay, and know you're in the right place. So that's what this is all about. Now, what I recommend for this is have a backing track to do this over the whole time. Just find a backing track. There's some on my channel you can use, A minor pentatonic backing tracks, and then practice all this stuff over it. Now, for me to explain at the start of the video, I'm not going to do that just yet, but I will show you in a bit how to do that. But you have a backing track going and then try out the things I'm going to show you. So what I recommend first to get to know these positions is you can take the first one on the list that just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just going to go across the positions in that order, but only do it on the high E and B strings. Okay, get to know those 2 strings, what they look like visually, and how to shift between them. So get your backing track going and then start trying to play a little lick, then shift, then shift, then shift. So all I mean is something like this. Okay, just get to know them, play a simple lick, and then just try and shift it across a position, then another, then another, then another. Nothing too fancy, but obviously this is going to get more difficult when you start to randomize the positions and when you start to do this on different string sets. So you're starting on the high E and B string, which are probably the most lead guitar friendly. Then go for the B and G string, then the G and D string, etc, etc. So that's what I would recommend doing. Each time you're practicing shifting across the positions, change the string set that you're practicing on. And then it occurs to me, something I used to do as well is miss out a string sometimes, so do string skipping. So start on the high E string, miss out the B string, and then go for the G string. Trickier. Yeah, and you can imagine how difficult that's going to get the more you push yourself. So what I'll do here is I'm going to get my simple A minor blues backing track that's on the channel here, just going in the background, and I'm going to start practicing over this. All I'm using is the first example, going from pattern 1 to pattern 5, but I'm just going to play some licks and get to know the highest 2 strings only, shifting around. So that's still going there. I'm going to try the string skipping thing. Wonder if I'll make any mistakes. Now what you got to do is go through all these grids, okay? It'll take me forever to go through the one video, you know, so I'm not going to do that here, but you can do that. But don't chicken out on doing the harder ones. You know, it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. It's the only way you're going to learn these positions. So another cool thing that I like to do for myself and when I teach people is take just one simple lick on a set of 2 strings and then try and shift it around and play the exact same lick. So I was kind of doing that there to an extent. I'll do it without a backing track here to show you. So let's take the middle 2 strings, okay? So we'll play a lick in pattern 1 and then move it to 2, 3, 4 and 5. But keep the lick the same. The only thing that's going to change is the intervals, the distance between your fingers and the notes going through the different patterns. So I'll just take a simple lick. Something like that. Let's see if I can shift it. There we go. Just a simple idea like that. But obviously if we change it, what if I threw in the string skipping thing again? Might be more difficult. Yeah, it's more difficult and sometimes you might not be sure what fingers to use. I always say with things, practice it both ways. So sometimes practice using that little finger, but other times you can get rid of it and stick to the first 3, especially finger 1 and 3. So I'll throw on a backing track and I'll try and do that. Okay, next thing I'll talk about is what notes to bend. And I can remember from myself when I was in the early stages of guitar, I just kind of wanted to rip up and down scales fast, and to be honest I still want to do that, it's fun. But when you're playing scales solely, you're not always thinking of what notes might sound good to bend. You might just bend it up and not be sure what it's going to sound like or if it's going to sound in key. So when I'm teaching people lead stuff in person, I notice that a lot. They're not sure what notes to bend. So you've got to start somewhere. So again, we'll stick to a set of 2 strings. And by all means, you see all these tasks I'm giving you, extend them to 3 strings, 4 strings if you want, okay? That's more intense, but you can certainly go that way. So let's take a bend lick we're going to come up with, and then we're going to have to transpose it to each position of the 5 pentatonics. So we might have to do some big bends in there, but at least we'll know what we need to achieve, even if we can't physically do it all the time. Right, let me have a look. I'll take the B and G string and whatever lick I just made up there. Sounds good. We're going to try and transpose that to each position. So that note there, that's fret 7 of the G string. The goal of bending that note in this case, for me at least, is I want the next note in the scale to sound out. The next note in the scale, that's a D, would be an E. Now it just happens to be there in the pattern we're learning. But the same note is there, okay? You can get the same note everywhere on guitar. So we're bending that D to become an E note. the next note in the scale. So when I go to each other position, that's what I'm going to be trying to do. So let's look, we're in position 2 then. And this is where it starts to get fun, okay? The next note in the scale from that note we're going to be bending is 3 frets away, so that's called a 1.5 step bend. Kind of David Gilmour would do that a lot. So we're going to bend this E note to become a G note. So that's a big hefty bend. So you've got to get that E note to sound like that 12th fret, the G note. Okay, now I'm having bother with the G string today because of all these bends, which is why the tuner's there. It can be very useful. Here's a wee trick. That's an E note there. So the tuner tells me that, which is nice. To see if you're getting the right pitch, if you're not always sure by your ear, you can look at your tuner and see if it's reading a G note as you bend. Tiny bit over. Okay? If you're not too sure, you can use your tuner to help you out with that. Next position, so we're in position 3 and I have to transpose that lick again. So the target note this time will be that G note on fret 12, and the next note in the scale is going to be an A. So that'll be a full step bend. On to position 4, so let's see how the lick works out here. Another 1.5 step bend there. Okay, but this gets you learning where all these bends and sweet spots are. Then position 5, let's see. Back to a full step bend. And if you want, you can go back to position 1 in the higher octave. So now I'm going to get a backing track running in the background just to demonstrate that last concept. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. So take your time with that and do check out some relevant backing tracks, and there's some on my channel, okay? There's some bluesy backing tracks in A minor, and you'll be able to have those in the background while you practice those things.